One day I'm gonna be everything I wanna be. I don't let it get the most of me. One day I'm gonna be free. I wanna be everything I'm gonna be. My future right in front of me. One day I'm gonna be free. I wanna be free. So let me be free. One day I'm gonna be free. Mentally and physically, emotionally and spiritually. Yeah. One day I'm gonna be free. I'm standing at the crossroads, feeling like a lost soul. Don't know where I wanna go, but all I know is I wanna be free. They're telling me to let it be, but that just ain't in me, no. Jealousy and envy, but all I see is I wanna be free. See everything I wanna be, exactly what I'm gonna be. Don't let it get the most of me. Eventually, I'm gonna be free. See everything I wanna be, exactly what I'm gonna be. Yeah. One day I'm gonna be free. I'm gonna be free. Let me be free. One day I'm gonna be free. Mentally and physically, emotionally and spiritually. Yeah. One day I'm gonna be free. I told them take their aim off me. Stop trying to get a name off me. If they would just let me be, I'm gonna be free. I told them take them chains off me and throw away the locks and keys. If they would just let me be, eventually I'm gonna be free. Free.
They're back.
What up, though? 7 days. We're back again for another episode of Dominant Effect. I'm March Bishop. We got Mike Ball, and we got a pretty good show for tonight. Thank everybody that's already done joined us this evening. Don't forget to hit that like button. Those of you that's new to the show, hit that subscribe button as well. But right now we're gonna jump into something that's been kind of controversial for months now, and we never really talked about it before. But being the amount of stuff that's going on right now, we're gonna dip into it today. And so what we're gonna talk about is ICE. And right now across the country, people are all in the street protesting ICE raids, and depending on who you ask, it's either about enforcing the law or abusing power. But here's the problem. That's framing, the actual framing of that is a little bit too simple. And it's hiding the real issue, because it isn't just an immigration debate. It's more of like a power debate. So the federal agency is operating inside American neighborhoods. People are being detained, protests are erupting, and a federal judge has stopped in several instances, jumped in and tried to restrict how these agents are supposed to be dealing with these protesters. A lot of lawsuits has been filed, and a lot of Americans are asking the same question over and over. Why does it feel like some people can do whatever they want and nobody can stop them? So tonight, we're not going to do any slogans. We're not going to do the left versus right shit. We're going to break it down for what's actually happening and what ICE is, why it exists, and what the law allows, where people think that the line is being crossed here, and why trust is being broken down in the real time. So I think that because when people lose faith in accountability, enforcement starts to feel like intimidation, and protest starts to feel like chaos. And that's the moment where I feel society starts to get unstable. So tonight we're gonna break all this down. We got a couple videos we're gonna show, and we're gonna try to dig down into this as much as possible, so we can kind of see exactly what this is, and then you can weigh your own opinion as to what you think, whether this is what they're doing the right thing to do, or are they right on that line between doing the right thing and having their way. So that's what we're going to jump in tonight. Now, I'm going to give you a little backstory on ICE before we jump into actually what's been going on here. So ICE basically stands for the Immigration and Customs Enforcement. And it was created back in 2003, right after 9/11, as a part of the reorganization that formed the Department of Homeland Security. ICE basically absorbed the interior enforcement and the investigation functions that was used to basically help out all these other agencies like INS and custom investigation. So ICE really has two big arms that's in there. You got the ERO, which is the enforcement of removal operations, excuse me. And that deals with the arrest, the detention, the deportation, immigration enforcement inside the U.S. But they also have the HSI, which is Homeland Security Investigation. And that is basically the criminal investigations, human trafficking, smuggling, fraud, all of that.
Drugs.
Yeah. So it's so ICE's stated mission is enforcing immigration laws and conducting investigations framed around national security and also public safety. But why is the blow up going on right now? So this week, you had a real large protest in Philadelphia during MLK Day, specifically calling out ICE raids and the deaths that has arisen by doing a lot of these raids and deportations. You also seen what went on in Minnesota, reporting the details of a fatal shooting involving a ICE agent and a young lady in Minneapolis. Right after that, a lot of protests and then legal fights over the federal tactics and also the accountability dealing with that. Now, there has been federal judges that issued major restrictions on how federal agents can treat protesters, like in Minnesota, specifically barring and detaining and not being able to retaliate against peaceful protesters and kind of tightening those standards of force. Now, there were some videos that I've seen throughout the weeks, and one that I seen that really struck a chord with me where you had protesters that was out, and I don't know whether those were like tear gas canisters. I don't know what exactly that was, but he like blew one right in this guy's face, close range. and the guy ended up losing his eye on accounts of it. And then you have what happened in Minneapolis dealing with that lady there, and it showed a lot of the first video that they put out. You know, of course, it showed the ICE agent walking to the car and lady backing up, pulling off, and then there was a shot that went into the car and hit this lady. But then I found another one that was taken on the opposite side right when that happened. And that one there kind of shows a totally different story. It didn't show that lady being violent at all. I'm going to play it for you right quick, and then we're going to talk about it right quick.
Change our plates every morning, just so you know. It'll be the same plate when you come talk to us later. That's fine. U.S. citizen. You want to come at us? You want to come at us? I say go get yourself some lunch, big boy. Go ahead.
Out of the car. Get out of the fucking car. Get out of the car.
Oh!
Fucking bitch.
Yeah, I remember when that came out.
See, now that one showed a completely different angle. And you can see when that lady walked around with that camera and showed that young lady's face, she wasn't saying anything violent at that point in time. Now, people have different opinions dealing with that. Some say that they shouldn't have backed up and tried to pull off, and that was the reason why you got shot. I don't believe that lethal force had to be necessary in that situation. Why didn't you just shoot the tires if that was the case? If you want, I mean,
They're
like,
actually,
why would you,
believe it or not, they're not. They're
actually
actually not allowed to. The answer to that is because they're not actually allowed to shoot the tires.
So you're not allowed to shoot the tire, but you are allowed to shoot them.
Only certain agencies are able to shoot tires, and I think police can do that, but ICE agents cannot.
Okay. You can't shoot the tire, but you can shoot the person driving the car.
Yes, if they're using their car as a weapon, absolutely.
Right, but when you seen this second part right here, do you really think that she was doing it like she was like intentionally trying to hit this guy, or was she just more or less trying to get out the way?
I think she got spooked legitimately. Now here's the question. Here's going to be the question: what is legal, or are we going to argue a morale point? You know what I mean? What is legally justified is totally different than what may be moral, right?
True. Now,
and you always got to remember that these guys are also acting. They never account for hindsight is 2020. They never do that. They go, was he justified in that very moment to be able to do that? And the answer is going to be yes.
Okay, so you have, so you got the public safety issue dealing with that. Now you of course you know that there's some controversy in that.
Yes, there is a lot of it.
Because you got let's break it up to where the ones who would support that, okay, their belief would be that that these raids are targeting serious threats. Okay. Now targeting varies by policy priorities, though. You have the enforcement model, and then you have the field decision, and then you got the critics also argue about that part, that the net between those two is actually too wide. Supporters see enforcement as a safety function, basically, and critics see it as a dragnet. So you got two different things there. the fight is over who is actually being targeted, because a lot of them saying that you went from going after immigrants to now you actually going after American citizens, that you have actual American citizens being detained, which they have shown.
Yeah, no, I've seen the videos. I've seen the videos.
Right. So then you have the deterrence part of it, and that's more predictable. You know what I mean? Where the consequences reduce like future violations, and the faster you act on it, it kind of reiterates the seriousness of the reason why they're out there. Is what a lot of them would say. Now, the counter to that would be that deterrence is hard to measure in real time. A lot of them would argue that it raises fear without actually hitting the root cause. So either way that you go at it, you're gonna have some that's gonna say like, okay, they're doing their job and people are just interfering, and which is making it more difficult. And by doing that, some people are getting hurt in the process.
Yep.
And then you have the ones on the other side that was, that says that they have the right to a peaceful protest, and what you're doing is abuse of power and excessive force. So it really all depends on which side of the spectrum that you're on as to whether you agree or disagree with what they have going on.
Yeah, and my side, would be, well, what they're doing is not peaceful protesting. Like, for instance, that lady that we were just showing, she wasn't peacefully protesting. She was obstructing federal agents. That's an issue.
Yeah. I've heard about they had different groups that were out, and they were going to these different sections of town that they knew that these agents would be at. It was basically warning people that they were in that area. And for, I guess that's given, like back in the day, like when I don't know about you, but you from California, you know what I'm talking about. When you're out there on the street and the police down the street, what do? Somebody throw a call down the street, everybody know what's going on, and everybody scatter and do what they need to do.
Absolutely.
So that's basically what a lot of them were doing. But I have seen, like I said, with the one video I've seen with the guy getting shot in the face, or them hitting people point blank with that bear mace and all that shit. I think that's a little too much, in my opinion. You know what I mean? Like, if you're gonna even with a protest, people are gonna yell and scream and say whatever they're gonna say. Just don't touch. You know what I mean? When you get to the point that you're touching, see, then that's when you done cross the line from peaceful protest to now aggression has to come because you stepped over that line. But as long as they sitting there just talking and yelling.
Yeah, I mean, as long as they stay on the sidewalk or whatever the case is on their side of the street, and they sit there and yell and have their bullhorns and, with their whistles and all that shit, yeah, go ahead, do all that, But obviously, there are times that, yes, I can obviously be objective here that, yes, I have seen ICE agents escalate situations when they should have not, obviously. There's definitely, nuances to all of this. But you got to look at the big range as well. I mean, since Trump has taken over this administration, we have deported 605,000 people since he's been inaugurated. So, and that's not counting the 1.2 million self-deportations that happened. So, I mean, we're talking, even though 600,000 to me is not what I want, I would want actually more. I would say I think that we should be getting them out. But if we have nuances of cases, like I've seen many of these videos that are just nuanced cases, and yes, and should they be, investigated, and should they be punished for the way that they behave? Absolutely, I agree. But you know how it's going to go with the feds. The feds are always going to side with the feds, and that's just the way it's always going to be. Real quick, Got to read this. We got Sterling Will coming in with the $5 saying the man with the pew always has the right of way. Comply or else live to fight in court. Very much appreciate that, Sterling Will. Appreciate your patronage.
I seen one. Matter of fact, I ended up saving it if I could show. I seen one of I think it was like last week before last when I seen this, when there was a pregnant lady that they were dragging down the street.
Yeah.
I don't know the whole thing about it. I don't know what happened prior
I
to.
actually don't know either.
I don't know what happened prior to. I just know that this lady was up under a car and they was dragging her, and like other people were yelling that she was with child, and it was like they just kept doing it.
They didn't care, right? They just
Right.
did what they were gonna do.
I'm gonna hit this one right quick. Just to show.
We kept yelling, she's pregnant, she's pregnant, she's pregnant. They put their knees in her, and we kept telling them, she can't breathe, let her up, let her up.
In the chaos, the woman who was handcuffed was suddenly being dragged by one arm as the angry crowd threw snowballs and screamed at the federal agents.
See, now that one right there, like you said, I don't know what happened before then.
Me neither.
But just looking at that video there, and even with the people saying that she is pregnant, wouldn't you just stop? You know what I mean? Like stop, get her on her feet. If you are gonna take her,
Right.
you can still take her, but you don't gotta drag her.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that.
You know, so that's.
But I don't know how that situation was unfolding. She could have been escalating by resisting and doing and flopping around like a fish. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. But obviously, if let's just grant that yes, there was all foul play on the ICE agent. Yeah, investigate the motherfucker. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's the way I put it.
Right. Now, the way I kind of think about that is it's like when enforcement includes lethal force or crowd control tactics, then the conversation stops being about immigration. It becomes more about state power. That's what I'm thinking. Now, mind you, immigration has been going on for years. You know what I mean? All the
Since
presidents done it.
conception.
All the presidents has done it. You know what I mean? Some have did a little bit more than others. I think with this go round here, as opposed to the other ones, I think the issue is more of not necessarily what's being done, but how it's being done.
Yeah.
Because even with the other presidents, and yes, they had real high rates of deportations, real high rates. But what you've seen though, you didn't see these like Alligator Alley, these deportation stations that they popped up out of the blue, rounding up people, and before you realized that they'd have been taken, they already gone. You didn't see that. You didn't see ICE walking up and down the streets, knocking on doors, stopping cars, running cars off the road, just grabbing people. You know what I mean? You didn't see that. I think that's what a lot of these protests and a lot of these people are actually scared of. It's the fact that they are just running up on you. You know, I've seen countless videos, and I'm sure you have too, of them running people off the road, grabbing them, throwing them in the car, taking off. You know what I mean? Or busting out windows as they going through, or shooting inside the cars. You know, they had one where they put a tear gas canister in the car, not realizing that it was a baby in the back, and that baby stopped breathing.
Yeah, that's terrible.
Yeah, so it
Should be investigated.
There's a lot of stuff that's that's going on with it. So, like you said, if you just enforcing immigration, it's one thing, but how it seems like the way that they're doing it now, I mean, especially down here in Florida, they run rampant down through. And they have like checkpoints where they've been stopping cars and stuff. I mean, I actually rode through one on my way to going to Fort Lauderdale. They had the roads blocked off, and they were going through, checking IDs and scanning the IDs and stuff as you went through. They had over at the airport, over in Orlando Airport, they were just they was picking people up out of there before they even got on the plane. Like as they was going through to how you scan your ticket to get on the plane, they were standing there scanning too.
You ever see those guys coming out of jail? As they're coming out of jail, they're thinking they're coming free, and then they get arrested right as they walk out, and fucking boom, they're detained, getting deported. Like
so they were doing that. People were actually getting ready to board, and they were in front of them actually scanning the tickets. And was scanning there and was like, okay, you good, you stand over here, you stand over here. And they just standing there, gripped up, arm to the teeth, and just escorting people, I mean? They just grabbing them, I mean? So I think that with a lot of this stuff that's going on, it's not the part that you are enforcing immigration policy, it's the way that it's being done. And when you're looking at it and you're looking at these videos, it looks like that you being a little bit too forceful for what you're doing. You know what I mean?
I agree with a couple of, these videos that have surfaced and that obviously do gain traction and get views and have been on social media. I agree that a lot of them are radical or whatnot. And yes, but again, like I said, 605,000 so far in just 1 year. I don't believe that anywhere close to that amount were treated like that. But real quick, I got to shout out. We got Mr. Boulay coming in, Department of Numismatics coming in, dropping in 5 gifted memberships. I very much appreciate that. Thank you very much for that, kind sir. Alabama's finest.
Oh, okay. So then you also have the debate between the deaths and the use of force controversies. So like the Philly protest, for instance, was basically explicitly tied to the ICE raids and the custody deaths that have been going on. A lot of these people have been these people that are about to be deported. A lot of them end up dying in these spots, in these deportation camps. Some has been dying there. Some is actually by the use of force that some of them were saying, allegedly, that some of these people never even made it to the deportation station.
Shit sounds like prison.
Yeah. And so that's a reason that was the big reason for the one in Philadelphia. Was, of course, Minnesota was more escalated wildly because of the shooting of Renee Good.
There was so much press on it.
Right.
As well, yeah.
Tremendous amount. So you have a lot of critics that argue that the immigration enforcement can function as punishment without the protections that people associate with like criminal court. So that kind of does away with the whole due process and all that. They just, there was, and when this first started coming out, when they first started talking about immigration, that was the big thing they was talking about was due process. Not everybody being able to go through due process, not being able to go through the courts, stuff like that. That's a
misconception, though. That's a misconception.
I'm saying that this is what they were saying at first.
Oh, yes. This is what the claims, yes.
Right. At first, this is what they were saying. And then they went through where they were talking about the way they were picking people up. So they wasn't just picking up people that was quote unquote illegal. They was picking up the ones that was actually going through the process, going through the immigration process.
Mm-hmm.
They were picking up the ones that came over to the United States that actually went into the military, served towards a duty overseas. They were picking them up too. There was a few of those that they ended up going through, had to get in touch with a lot of senators and stuff like that to be able to actually get those people out. But they had paperwork and everything.
Yeah, they're going to go after the people that they know that they can track. I mean, in the government's eyes, that's what the feds are looking at. You know.
Yeah, so they was just grabbing everybody that they could grab at that point. You know what I mean? And a lot of these people that they're using, a lot of these agents, quote quote, you know what I mean? Like you have some that's cops and stuff, and you have some that actually works for ICE, but then you got a lot of them that was like bounty hunters. Then you just had just regular, ordinary Joe Schmoes that went and signed up, got a job. Now they ICE agents. You know what I mean? And it seemed like it's been where they had that mixture right there. You know, you may have a lot of them that's specialty trained. They go out and do that stuff, and you have no problem. But then you have these ones over here that's new, don't really have the training, more or less the how can you say the right vernaculars about themselves to be able to hold a conversation with somebody to actually see what's going on, to see whether or not they need to pick them up or not. You know what I mean? There was a guy here that I know, and he came here from Cuba. They picked him up about 6 weeks ago. They got him on a regular traffic stop. He got a speeding ticket. They grabbed him, and by the time his wife figured out where he was at, he was already gone. And as of right now, she still don't know where exactly he's at. She still don't know where he's at. And that's been going on 6 weeks. There's another video here that I have where the chief of police in Minneapolis is talking, and he's talking because a lot of people are saying that the police is actually against the ICE agents and don't want to work together with them or whatever. And he's kind of shedding a little bit of light on that. So we're gonna
hold on before you do, real quick. Let me read these real quick. I got Time to Stand sending in $2 saying respect and love, brother. I very much appreciate that. Thank you for sending in and showing your love. Time to Stand sends in another $2 saying talk about the victims of illegals. No kidding. Absolutely appreciate you. We've got Glare 1%er as well coming in with the $5 saying under Obama 3 million people were deported. Sanctuary cities were even helping ICE with local police department round up criminal aliens. Yes, I do remember that actually, Glare. So thank you again for the $5. I appreciate that.
That's very true. And like we said, nobody's ever said that immigration hasn't happened with all these other presidents. And we know that there's been some that took millions and millions of people up out of here. And like I said, the issue here isn't about what they're doing. It's how they're doing it.
Right.
That's the problem. But I'm going to play this video right quick, and then we'll jump back into it.
Yesterday, our country honored Dr. Martin Luther King. And I was struck by the fact, and I'm paraphrasing, but he once said, "We must learn to live together as brothers, or we will perish together as fools." We can't be foolish. We can't be those fools. We recognize by standing here today that some might say, you're only speaking up because this is happening to the cops. Others will say that we're speaking out against ICE, and that means we want rapists on the street. Neither of those things are true. We want to find some common ground. Law enforcement has more authority than a general citizen. That means we have more responsibility in how we behave. We have to find common ground here, and we have to figure out a way that these processes, which are clearly failing if American citizens are being grabbed or stopped or seized, this can't happen. We have to make sure that everyone's civil rights are intact. I truly want to believe that there isn't anybody on either side of the political aisle that thinks that people's civil rights aren't important. They have to be the cornerstone of everything we do.
All
What's
right,
your take
Glare,
on that?
real quick, we got Glare 1%er coming in with the 15 months saying, my point is local police aren't helping now. Yes. They were helping then and they're not helping now, essentially. Yeah, you're going to see more resistance. So, yeah, I hear what he's saying, you know, absolutely. But I don't know. It's to me, it's a lot of mumbo jumbo. It's very cut and dried to me. Either you're here illegally or you're not. And so I'm very black and white with that. You know, it's like, are you here illegally? Well, okay, well, it is what it is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I'm not using the moral argument, you know.
Yeah, I know that a lot of police officers aren't helping. I know here in Florida, here in Polk County, and I know everybody know the sheriff here in Polk County, Grady Judd, and he said that he's not getting involved in it whatsoever. And he was actually for it at first. He was actually for it at first until they started trying to pull his deputies in and start taking his deputies out of and basically recruiting. Once they
so is he like poaching people? Yeah. Oh yeah, that's not going to work out.
He got on there. Nope, I ain't helping you do nothing. And
it's not going to work, especially with territorial jurisdiction type agencies. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's, you know, police, whether it be the feds or whatever the case is. I mean, you should see how cutthroat it is. I mean, it's those fucking people die, you know, live and breathe, and do everything to claim the jurisdiction of shit. It's crazy.
Right. So let's talk about the accountability part here. Because even when these things happen, of course, you know, you have the internal review first, right? And a lot of us don't know anything about what goes on the inside. That once we see the videos of this stuff that's going on, what actually happens on the inside of that. So even when these reviews happen, they often start inside the federal system, the agency, IG, DOJ, from a public's perspective, you don't actually see that action, and you see the consequences slowly. Like it may announce it, it may not. You know what I mean? And half the time, you don't know who these people are anyway, so you don't really know what's going on with them. And then you have where the courts step in. So, like in Minnesota, you had that injunction that came after the repeated clashes and the allegations from Miss Good when she was fatally shot, and you had a lot of court proceedings with that. And the judge restricted the detention / force towards like these peaceful protesters and these people that's actually out there just observing what's going on, because a lot of them that's out there really aren't protesting. A lot of them's out there just being nosy for real, trying to get content. You know what I mean? A lot of these videos that we've seen is people just out there just being nosy, just with their phones out, just filming, just trying to see what all they can get and put on Facebook or YouTube or whatever. But sometimes actually getting away with it really means that the system is actually built so much on consequence that it's slow. So take, for instance, Mike, you were in California. You were
right.
Raised in California.
Right.
And so you know a lot of Hispanic people. There's a lot of Hispanic people in California, just like it is here in Florida.
Yeah, I know more Hispanics than white people.
Yeah. Me too here. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
There's way more of them.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say, for instance, that you had a friend that came over going through immigration the way he was supposed to,
Sure.
doing his little meetings and doing his check-ins, and you gotta in order to like fully get a visa, you gotta be here for if you're married, it's like 3 years. Any other time it's 5. You know what I mean?
Right.
Okay, so he's going through all of that, and right before he's eligible to get his full visa, he gets picked up.
Right.
So he gets picked up, not his family, just him.
Sure.
You don't realize that he's been picked up. Family don't realize he picked up because they're not letting you just call and say, "Hey, I got picked up." I'm about
Sure.
They're not telling anyone.
Right.
And he ends up in, let's say, El Salvador.
Sure.
But that's
Sure.
not where he's from. You know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah, he's totally from a different country.
Right. So they done made these agreements with these other countries to take these people, and they take them over there and they drop them off. And now this guy over here has nothing and trying to figure out, okay, how am I supposed to survive in a spot that I have nobody? You know what I mean?
No, I hear you on that. Okay, so my whole thing on something like that, an equation exactly what you just put out there, is of course I wouldn't agree with the deportation of a person that's properly gone through the channels, checking in when they're supposed to check in. That's mainly the big fault, actually, is a majority of the times they just don't show up for their meetings and stuff like that. And that's a big no-no. You don't show up, you're going to be put on that list. And that's what you do see a lot of. So I would disagree with the government absolutely. If somebody is doing the proper channels, going to the meetings, doing everything that they should be doing, then yeah, I mean that's wrong. Now I have, for instance, quite a few of my friends, personal and actually very, very close to me, people that have been deported, and one that is personal to me is deported right now because of the whole thing. And, luckily for him, he was deported back to his country that he was born, but he hasn't lived there since he was like 7 years old. You know what I mean? So yeah, you get dropped off over there. But if you're illegal, homie. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of like, even though they're my friends and all that, yeah, I don't want that to happen to my people, right? But you got to look at it as like, okay, well, I can't. This is the way it is. It's like if you're here illegally, you're kind of rolling the dice. And if you get caught, you get caught.
Right. No.
And then a lot of times they just come back and try again. So.
Well, some will. Some will.
Some will.
A lot of them.
Some will.
Right. So, so here's my issue with it.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
I should read these. I let these pile up for a second. Real quick, we got Sterling Well coming in with the $5 saying local cops will not get involved anymore, especially after the Floyd riots. Yeah, it's probably a little scary for them, to be honest. We got Time to Stand coming in saying this wouldn't happen if Biden didn't open the borders and have sanctuary cities and if mayors and governors helped. I agree to an extent on that, absolutely.
Yeah, that kind of goes both ways. They ain't all just flooding in because Biden came here.
It's been happening. Yeah. It's not just one person that it happened under. Yeah. Usually what they're arguing is, well, they didn't do it. He didn't enforce just basic level of policy, and that's usually what they're pointing out. But that's irrelevant.
See, but here's the thing with that. Even when they opened the borders, and we talked about this before, a lot of the ones that was okay. So you had a lot of Venezuelans that came in, a whole lot of them. This is the first round.
Lots of Chinese people.
Right. But then you started getting Chinese, you got Russians, you got Afghans, you got South Africans,
all of it.
You had all of those that came over, and they all came from the southern border.
Yeah, majority of them were not actually Hispanics. You know, I mean, yeah, of course, a huge sum of them were Hispanics. I mean, because that's our bordering country. You know, so obviously that usually you would only have that kind of issue, but then it kind of became like, oh well, we'll funnel you through here, and the rest of the country, or rest of the world was like, well, we're going to take advantage of that. You know,
right? But here's my question: how many Chinese people have you seen on TV getting deported?
On TV?
How many Chinese people have you seen?
I've seen a handful. I would say a handful.
Okay. How many Afghans have you seen on there getting deported? That you actually seen on TV getting deported?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, I report them. There's times I've actually reported that. Yeah.
Now, when they first started talking about it, and they was talking about all these illegals coming through, and at first you was thinking that, okay, well, shit, if all these people coming over here, well, hell, ain't nobody in Mexico, ain't nobody in South America. Shit, they all up here. The way they was initially talking about it. Then you found out that these people were paying thousands and thousands of dollars to come from these other countries to go to the South.
Yeah, they had a pipeline of smuggling through. Yeah.
Right. And you had the UN that was actually paying people to come into the U.S.
Oh, damn. I didn't know that, but I believe it. I totally believe it.
They gave them all these little debit cards.
Yes, I remember that. I remember that.
They were charging it. They were getting money from the United Nations.
Wow. Right up I didn't know that money came from the United Nations.
That's exactly
I remember where those cards were coming in, and everyone was like, who the fuck is paying for this? You know, like,
right. That was because
usually it's the US taxpayer, usually. But yeah.
And then they were showing sections where like a lot of people was coming through, and they were throwing a lot of, fake names, aliases, stuff like that. And then as they were going down, checking the actual wall, they were finding all these different IDs, UN cards, all this stuff that people was getting rid of them. You know what I mean? So they going over here like your name may be this, but when you walked up to the front, then that wasn't your name. Your name was this. You know what I mean? And they were finding these ID cards, and then they was going back and like, okay, this one here said that her name was Rosa Hernandez, but her name is actually, this one. You know what I mean? And then they were able to kind of cross match a lot of them to figure out who a lot of these people really were. But it was after that initial train of Hispanics that came through at the beginning when they first opened the border, the rest of them that came through was all the ones that was coming over from China and Afghanistan and Iraq, and they were all military-age men.
Yeah, there's no females. No. I mean, there's a fairly
a couple
few.
Sprinkled in there, but
it was sprinkled. Yeah,
right.
Some family. Sometimes children, but mainly military-age males.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and then that's when you had the FBI director at that time that was talking about all these cells that had popped up, and that they knew where all these cells were.
Was that Comey at the time?
Yep, and especially China, because they said that the Chinese had a cell in every state in the U.S. and they knew where each of them were. So if you're doing your investigation and you know exactly where all these people at, then why don't you just go bag them?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, them should have been the first ones that you bagged. If you knew that they were setting up sales, those should have been the first ones that you got.
Yeah, I agree.
When this one first started, and they was like, okay, we're gonna get all the criminals out. Okay. And you see they gathered up, 400, 500, 600 Venezuelans. They gathered them all up and shipped them over to was it El Salvador that they went to?
Yep. That was a heavy country that received. Yeah.
Right. They didn't mind. You know what I mean? Because they were taking them from here and putting them right over here into this jail. The
Now I'm sure they probably get paid to do it. You know,
oh, Lord,
yeah. I mean, to accept them. You know,
yeah, it ain't free.
Yeah,
These
the
countries
government
is
paying
extra
straight
money.
up. Yeah,
Right.
that's right.
They paying them to send over so many people. And they just
Take
like,
my
sure, bring
bullshit.
them on over.
Take
Sure,
my
bring them
bullshit.
over here. And that's exactly what
Crazy.
they're doing.
Yeah.
But then you have where they were taking people. Now, like if you were, like I said, let's say for instance, say your friend was from Cuba, for instance, and he got caught and he got deported, and you sent him back to Cuba. Okay. Now, if he was from Cuba and he ends up in Libya, that's a problem.
I hear you. Absolutely.
If you're gonna send them back where they came from, not just whatever country that you.
But a lot of those times is because those governments are declining those people. So like they will go to the originator first and say, you know, from whatever country they're birthed from, and they'll say, hey, you know, we're willing to give you this guy for exchange, whatever. And that the government's like, nah, we ain't taking him. He's either too gnarly of a criminal, he's wanted by gangs, he's, you know, all this stuff. So then they go, okay, well, where can we safely put this dude?
Okay.
You know?
And now that's the part that's not our problem.
You know what I mean? You're very right. But we do accommodate that, though.
That's what I'm saying.
We do accommodate that.
But would you really need to, though? You see what I'm saying?
I mean, whoever's receiving them, if their own government's saying you ain't bringing them over here, I mean, what are you going to do?
Okay.
You force them? How?
Think about this. Now, if they said, okay, we have 600 Argentinians,
sure,
that we're about to deport them, we're about to send them back to your government, and Argentinian government say, no, you know what? No, keep them over there. We don't want them.
Mm-hmm.
No, you about to get them back.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, what are you gonna do for real? You know what I'm
Who
saying?
knows?
I'm gonna drop them off, and
maybe that conversation does happen.
You know what I mean? So you say, okay, I'm gonna drop their ass off, and whatever you do at that point, that's on you. But you taking them back.
Yeah, you throw them in your prisons, or you let them off into your streets, whatever you want to do. You know,
right?
That's
on you.
Good.
That's on you. But if I send this person across the world to another spot that you know that his survival rate is basically going to be nil, you know what I mean? Because he's not going to have nothing. You know what I mean? He or she going to have nothing. Wouldn't you think that would be a little bit more?
I do agree with what you're saying. So the way that I would look at it and judge it, like, okay, if the guy was El Salvadorian, right, and we were going to deport him there, and his country said no, and then they send him off to Iran or whatever, they send him off to some place in the Middle East or something like that. Of course, I wouldn't be necessarily cool with that. I would look at it as the way of our asylum laws. The asylum laws actually show the next safest, closest country from where you're at on a geographical level. So if people are going from asylum, let's say from Mexico, yeah, it makes sense to come to America for asylum because they're right there. But it doesn't make sense for someone in Mexico to claim asylum in China. You know, it just wouldn't make sense. So, I mean, I think that that's the way that I would look at it on a scale of where they're from, right? On whatever hemisphere of the world or whatever the case is. You want to kind of keep it on a geographical location of where they can be accepted, right?
Right.
So I would say, yeah, we need reform on a lot of these things, and I agree.
Okay, so let me ask you this question here. So do you think immigration enforcement should be treated more like a criminal law or civil law?
Honestly, this is just my take. I honestly think it should be civil. It is a civil dispute. It's a problem on a civil level. No, I don't think it should be investigated like a criminal, which is the difference of due process, essentially. You know, if you're being prosecuted as a criminal, you're going to have different due process which is seeing a judge, getting offered a free lawyer, all these things. That's different. But when it's civil, this is where the due process is less.
Right. See, and that's where the problem is. Okay.
Yeah. No, I'm pointing it out
because ICE right now is increasingly using like criminal style tactics, like the arm raised, the detentions, and the actual force behind a lot of these scuffles that they're getting into. Like I said, running cars off the road, shooting inside of cars.
Yeah, I mean, if you're a threat to these agents, of course. Now, real quick, I just gotta say, so Time to Stand says, no, I disagree. It should be criminal. Well, if it's criminal, that means that every single one of these people that we deport would have to go and see a judge and get granted a lawyer and all these different things. So that's the difference there, Time to Stand. If you'd actually be on my side if you're pro deportation.
Right. So like you said, you're using both. So you use
correct
criminal style tactics, but they are actually civil.
Correct.
They are actually
civil.
operating under civil law protections.
Correct.
Which at that point you have that legitimacy gap right there, because if that enforcement looks criminal, then people argue that that criminal part, like you said, should have criminal level due process.
Correct. The difference of due process is different. Yes.
Right. Then it has to be less force driven and more transparent about what you're doing. So you actually go on these people and get them the opportunity to produce paperwork to prove who he or she is, whether they're an actual citizen or not just the part of
the due process. The due process essentially for an illegal immigrant essentially is, hey, where's your ID? You know, and that's the due process. And if they can't provide an ID at that point, they're like, nope, we're taking you, dude. That's the due process, you know. So people don't understand. I think it's a lack of knowledge of how due process works, and it differentiates from civil to criminal.
Okay. Got another question for you.
Sure.
Do you trust federal agencies to investigate themselves?
Hell no.
Okay. Okay. And why?
Hell no. Man, I don't trust none of these motherfuckers. I don't trust nobody. Okay? Fuck the feds. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, you know, even with the self-investigation, it doesn't automatically mean corruption, but it's also a lack of transparency.
Yes, it is absolutely a lack of transparency.
That whole suspicion where, you know, the actions where they come out and say, well, these actions are justified, even though they may not. So you have like even clean investigations failed where the public really doesn't have any kind of receipt as to how exactly they ran that investigation and what their findings were. You know what I mean? They was like, oh yeah, they justified, and let's move on from that. You know what I mean? And that kind of deals with a lot of it. I mean, like, how are you actually going to investigate yourself? You're not going to. You're not going to accept fault. You're going to say that it was justified. You're going to figure out a way to make it justifiable.
Of course. And the feds are always going to back the feds. You know, they're going to at the least amount of investigation as possible, and all that I think is bullshit. I think if you're caught dragging a pregnant lady, and we're granting that, let's say that lady did nothing wrong, kind of thing, then yes, absolutely, that fucking agent should be under investigation. Absolutely. You know what I mean? But who's to be investigating the feds? Who's above the feds? You know what I mean? Like, what are you going to do about that? And that's kind of the, I understand that point. Real quick, we got Sterling Wheel coming in with the $2 saying, why didn't Border Control do their job? Well, at that time, they probably weren't allowed to.
Okay. Here's the next question I got for you.
Sure.
What do you think is more dangerous? law not being enforced or power not being checked?
Ooh, both are equally. I would say both are equally destructive. I couldn't pick one or the other on that. Both are equally fucked.
Mm-hmm. Now, opinion, just my opinion.
Sure.
I would say that the unchecked power is more dangerous on a long-term scale. And the reason why is because when you have unenforced laws, that becomes disorder. Unchecked power creates fear and abuse.
That's true.
Now, a system that can recover from disorder rarely recovers from tyranny. So societies survive with weak enforcement, but societies collapse under unchecked authority.
Interesting. That is interesting.
So you're right. It is
yeah, both are bad, right?
Right.
You know
it's
what
a
I mean?
balancing act as
yes.
to, you would think like not following by the law. Okay, if you let this go for a period of time, yes, it does. That does become an issue. But when you have someone that feels that they have overall power and you don't check them in that situation, that becomes way more because they feel that they're untouchable at that point.
I hear you. I hear your argument 100%. I mean, I do agree.
Let me see. I got one more question for you, and then we're gonna see where we're at. So we're gonna
this has been a great conversation, man. W to everyone in the chat, by the way, as well.
Okay, last question. Where do you personally think the line between peaceful protests and interfering with law enforcement, where do you think that line is?
Okay, well, I don't think that this should be too subjective. I think it should be fairly objective. If you're getting to the point where you're like blocking ICE agents with your car, stuff like that, that's not peaceful protesting. When you're standing on the corner, and you're standing across from the ICE building, you're not on their property, you're not on federal property, you're on the other side, and you got your bullhorns, you got your whistles, and you've got your cameras and all that shit. Absolutely, scream it up all you want. But as soon as you guys get, unfortunately, this is where protests kind of erupt, is where there's someone, it could be just one person, or it could be the whole crowd, I'm just saying, but it could even just be one person that gets out of control, wants to get out there and antagonize the agents or whatever the case is and make everybody look bad, and that's essentially what does happen. And so I do recognize situations like that, but I think that what we have seen in regards to this ICE topic within the last couple of weeks has not been peaceful.
Hold on, somebody.
Someone calling you?
Right.
Man, you know what time it is?
No, actually, actually, tell you the truth, it's one of them damn
telemarketers.
One of them toll-free calls. Like they don't know. You know what I mean?
No.
Yeah. But you're absolutely right on that. I mean, if you're doing a peaceful protest, like I said, you have freedom of speech.
Yes.
You have freedom to assemble. Now, if you marching and you showing a non-obstructive presence, then
you're out the way.
Do all you want.
But you're out the way, but you're heard.
Right. So, but like I said, like even with the one in Minnesota, you know what I mean? I hate that happened.
Yes, me too.
But that blocking actually did enforce. That did actually cross the line to the interference.
Her specific case.
Right. And like I said, you're gonna hear you're gonna hear people. You know, they're gonna shout and they're gonna you know scream and chant and protocol. That's all about. But but once you get to the point to where it feels that you come in at a more of a threatening manner, you actually helping them out.
Yes, you're
You helping them
justifying
out.
their position.
You helping them out, and you
Yes.
giving them reason to want to do it, and then they're going to turn around and say that they're justified by doing it based on that particular thing there. Everything else that you could have been thinking about doing could have been A100. You just out here uh, showing support, operating your right to free speech and assembly. And one thing that they deem as being brought to them in a threatful manner, they're able to totally switch that up and you on about a minute is because a lot of times you're not the one with the weapon. You holding signs, they holding guns. Big difference.
Right. And always remember, I mean, I don't think it's very smart to, as an unarmed person in many of these protest cases, unarmed, going straight up to these ICE agents, whether they want to attack them or scream in their face and all that stuff. I mean, you're screaming in a guy's face who feels like they're justified to be able to blast you. So why would you do that? That seems like retarded to me.
Stupid.
Right.
You know, why would you do that to yourself? That's like suicide by cop, really.
Mm-hmm. You know, this is what makes this topic so explosive because
And controversial.
whatever side you own, both sides think that they're defending America.
Yes.
One side says that this enforcement is necessary. The other side says that it's unchecked power and it's an actual real threat going on. And when that whole trust collapse, every action looks like tyranny and protest looks like chaos. But it's really not because, like I said, and depending on which side of the spectrum you're on, you both claim that you are defending the same cause. You're just doing it a different way. So the real question is, what type of country do we want even when these pressures rise? The question you should ask yourself. Which way are you going to be? Now, I was thinking about doing a part 2 to this. So if it's something that you guys think that we should do a part 2 on, drop us a note in the comments after the show, in the comment line or whatever. Drop us a comment and tell us that we should do it and what city should we do it about.
Mhm.
And if we see it, we'll do it. But we're going to shut it down for the evening. Like always, I thank each and every one of you for coming out and watching and sharing this hour with us. Like I said, this is it's a very confrontational topic. You know what I mean? Like I said, people have different opinions about this as to which way it's going to go. And
It's
like I said,
emotional for people.
Right. And I know there's a lot of families that could be watching that their loved ones have been deported.
Yep.
A lot of people that I know personally that I know that's watching that is that they have family members that have been deported and that they haven't heard from, and they don't know where they are right now. So I know it's very emotional on both ends, but I'm also reaching out to the people that are protesting and telling them to do it. Nobody's stopping you from protesting.
Yes, that's
But
right.
do it the right way and keep yourself out of harm. You know what I mean? Do it and be able to go home. Don't do it and end up being a statistic for doing too much. So 7 days from now, We have another story for you. Like I said, like, follow, share, subscribe. Hit that like button so we can be able to pass this episode out to the people that probably would never see it, get it on a proper algorithm. And, you know, here for the past couple months, I've really been, and I never did it before, even in the military, I never have done this, but I have been doing it here lately. But I've actually been praying for this country because there's a lot going on.
We need it.
It's a lot of stuff that you see, and it's a lot of stuff that you don't see. And it's what you don't see that's more important. So I'll see you guys in 7 days. Hope y'all have a prosperous, blessed week. And go ahead and take it away, Mike.
Well, I can't thank everybody that came in, tuned in with us, and heard us out, as well as being engaged. You know, your comments in the chat, hitting that like button, double tapping the screen on the vertical side. I very much appreciate all of you guys. Listen, we will be back here in 7 days. This is what we do every Wednesday night. So listen, we're going to be rating our buddy, by the way, Dr. Harley. Make sure you guys stick around on my side. We're going to be rating him. Make sure you guys let him know we're coming through with a Mike Ball raid. Anyways, with that being said, everybody, much love, honor, respect, and very much appreciate you guys.